ready to work? Because there's a lot to get into on a Thursday.
Absolutely.
Some NFL news that broke last night, leaving many shocked. Bucs head coach Lovie Smith was fired after 2 seasons with the organization. Tampa Bay finished 6-10 this season after going 2-14 in Lovie's first year. He had replaced Greg Schiano with a 4-year contract in January 2014. There are now just 4 African-American coaches in the NFL, yet 2/3 of the league are African-American. ESPN's Vaughn McClure is reporting that Smith was fired over the phone. Stephen A., what's your reaction to all this?
Well, first of all, let's be clear. I'm sad for Lovie Smith. I do not believe he deserved this. I think it's a travesty that this happened to him, which is hard to say for a guy with an 8-24 record in his 2 years as a head coach. But the first year was a wash. We all know that. This year was Jameis Winston's rookie year. They went 6-10. They had a lot of good moments before they tailed off near the end of the season. And we're hearing about the possibility that because they want their offensive coordinator to be their head coach and they want to lose him because he's the new golden boy.
Dirk Cutter.
That's right, Mr. Cutter. So the Dirk Cutter. So as a result of that, that's why this happened to Lovie Smith. But the fact that it happened over the phone just adds insult to the insulting decision by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have been known to do this before. Yes, we love and respect our very own John Gruden, the voice of Monday Night Football, a Super Bowl champion with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. None of that is to be taken away, but let's not forget who was the architect of things that transpired in Tampa before John Gruden ultimately came in and finished the deal that some would say Tony Dungy would have undoubtedly finished and deserved to have the opportunity to finish. But on a bigger level, this is more the same. How many times do I have to sit up here and be accused of race baiting and beyond because I point out flagrant facts that are literally slapped in our faces on a daily basis? And to be clear, because I had my researchers do some notes, my man David and boys on radio, Jonathan Winthrop and Nuno Texiera.
You have your own researcher?
Yes, I do. My producers on radio, along with David here. Please, you own David. I mean, come on now. David should get a separate check from you for crying out loud.
Sabino, we love you.
We love Sabino, but here's the deal. I had these guys look it up. Skip Bayless, there are 12 offensive or defensive coordinators in the NFL out of 64 who happen to be black. The interesting part that was pointed out is, you know what, when you look at some of these coaches, you'll notice many of the coaches are behind head coaching minds on the same side of the ball. So we have a situation where you've got Dennis Thurman with the Buffalo Bills. Well, he never gets any credit because Rex Ryan is there. We got Harold Goodwin.
By the way, Rex took all the blame for the collapse.
There you go. But you got Harold Goodwin for the Arizona Cardinals on offense. Well, he's behind Bruce Arians and assistant head coach Tom Moore. How about Edgar Bennett behind Mike McCarthy in Green Bay? Did we even know that Edgar Bennett was the offensive coordinator? No. So think about the pattern that we're talking here. The few black coordinators that you do have a head coach on the same side of the ball, which means essentially that you're not necessarily leading. Now, there are exceptions. The one exception or the two exceptions would be Hugh Jackson, who runs the offense in Cincinnati, hired by a black coach in Marvin Lewis. All right, and he's allowed to do his own thing. And you've got Romeo Crennel, who's a lifer who worked under Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick. So either you got to have a brother, giving the brother the opportunity to run his own show, or you have to be an elite Hall of Fame coach, secured in your stature in order to hire an African-American to lead. Outside of that, every other African-American coordinator basically has a head coach on the same side of the ball, so you're essentially leading the way, even though that's the job of a head coach, to be fair. The reality is that it's given the impression and the interpretation that black men can't lead. And as a result, now we know why it's hard for black folks to get a head coaching job. Because if they're not getting credit for what they're doing as the coordinators because they have a boss in the head coach who's on the same side of the ball, there is what you have. Now, to throw it all out there, Skip, let's be fair here, because Molly, you weren't here on this show at this particular time.
Yep.
Who was it who called for Lovie Smith to lose his job in Chicago?
Did.
That would be me.
And that was off a 10-6 last year.
And that was off a 10-6 last year in Chicago. I said he knew the mandate. The mandate was to make the playoffs. In 9 years, he only made the playoffs 3 times. Look, he had enough of an opportunity. He deserves to be a head coach, just not in Chicago. That is what I said. Here, he got railroaded. And so now we look at this situation for what it is, all right? When you look at the coordinator situation that I just broke down, you combine that with the paucity of African-American head coaches, what do we have here? Do I have to spell it out for anybody? I'm just saying, man, it's unbelievable to me that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who should be ashamed of themselves for doing this, all right? It's amazing to me what is transpiring. It's not going to surprise me at all, Skip Bayless, if in a year or two we don't see an African-American head coach in the game, because clearly it's one of those situations where, you know, the Rooney Rule has been instituted. It's been implemented, and still the nonsense takes place. And we're going to have Herm Edwards on the show later on today. He came on my radio show yesterday, Skip, and made a very, very valid point. We've got to a point where African-American coaches need to be careful about actually accepting interviews. Because in the case of a Deuce Staley, for example, you had to do the interview because you were working for the Philadelphia Eagles all of these years. But the reality is this. If you are an African-American and you get called for an interview, because they're not serious about the interview, because we all know that Tampa Bay is just going through the process because they already know who they want to give the job to.
We assume that.
We assume. Yes. I'm saying no, damn it. Right. We assume literally, but figuratively speaking, I'm telling you, I know. We know what the hell they're doing, okay? They know who they're going to hire. So you're going to go through the old standard of honoring the Rooney Rule and interviewing candidates just to say you interviewed. But Herm Edwards pointed out that the owners will see that and say, well, they've already been interviewed 2 or 3 times and they didn't get those jobs. So evidently they weren't that impressive. So why give them this job? What we're seeing is us taking steps back, not steps forward. I'm sorry if folks believe that's race baiting. It just happens to be factual. But if that's where you want to take it, I don't give a damn.
Okay. I do give a damn about this, and I give a damn about your opinion, and I appreciate and respect and applaud what you just said. Let's take a quick step back and look at the bigger picture now. African-American head coaches left are Todd Bowles, Marvin Lewis, who has been under fire, even from you in Cincinnati. Right. Does he need to win this playoff game?
Yes.
If he loses a home playoff game, could he be gone?
If he loses the playoff game, he's not going to be gone. They'll keep him because Cincinnati's too cheap, and the ownership doesn't believe in paying somebody to be doing nothing or to be going elsewhere. So he'll probably keep his job, but I am of the opinion that if Marvin Lewis loses this playoff game this weekend, he should be fired, and Hugh Jackson should be named the head coach for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Okay, then he would be beaten by a Mike Tomlin we both love, so he's cool.
Right.
Which brings us to Jim Caldwell. Is he cool there?
No.
I don't think so. We don't know what's going to happen. Who's the new GM? Will the GM keep him or not? Don't know that.
I think he'll be gone.
Could we be down possibly
3
to maybe even to 2, right?
Possibly 2, probably 3.
Okay. All right, because you're saying Marvin Lewis will probably stay anyway. Okay, fair enough. Okay, now back to Molly's question about Lovie. I found last night's news shocking and then revolting. This would have been shocking for me if this coach had been black or white or purple or any color, because this was just flat out wrong, no matter what his color was. But this coach, as we all know, is a black man. And this sets back, once again, to your point, the progress of the black head coach in the National Football League extraordinarily. Because I'm not going to make a case Lovie Smith is the all-time greatest head coach.
He's not.
Because he's not. But he's a very good one. I fought for him to stay in Chicago off the 10-6 non-playoff year. And I remind people, in Chicago, he had 2 11-5s. He had the 10-6 to end, and of course he had the 13-3 that got him to the Super Bowl. In the postseason in Chicago, he was 3-3. Not great, but certainly not bad. And in Tampa, they had a disastrous first year, which shocked me. I liked the heck out of this team, as you remember, before the season started, and it got to 5-5 with this rookie quarterback. And the rookie quarterback started to get a hold of it. And then, for reasons I can't quite explain, this team lost 5 of its last 6. And the expertise of Lovie Smith is the defensive side of the ball. And even though in yards allowed, they wound up 10th in the NFL, which is pretty good. But in points allowed, they were 26th, which is not very good, which is pretty much why they've lost 5 of their last 6.
What they was given.
You could argue.
Right.
So on the offensive side of the ball, in yards gained, they were 5th in the NFL. They were even a notch ahead of the New England Patriots in the end in yards gained. In scoring, they were only 20th, which is not great. So you can see 20th in scoring and 26th in points allowed equals 6 and 10, right? Okay, so now if this is to be believed that Dirk Cutter is positioned now to be the next head coach, just because he was the offensive coordinator, I've been covering this league for a long, long time, and the first thing that I found out about this league is that, number one, coordinators don't always or even often make great head coaches. It's like apples and oranges. So you can run an offense and you can run a whole football team. Who makes that leap? They all do. I don't get it. All of a sudden, Adam Gase is the hottest candidate because he's a young, hot offensive. Really?
Yes.
Well, does that mean he's a great leader? I have no idea. I think Lovie's a pretty good leader. And I would love to see Lovie have at least one more year, which he thoroughly deserved in this situation, especially with the rookie quarterback. So are we presuming that a Dirk Cutter, who was a head coach only in college, at Boise State, he was pretty good. He had a 10-3 and 10-2 year, okay? And that got him the head coaching job at Arizona State, where he had one top 20 finish in 2004 with a 9-3 record. That was about it. Okay, does that mean he's going to be a highly successful head coach? Does that mean that Dirk Cutter can run the offense and run the whole football team, deal with the media and all the issues that are encountered by a pro football team? No, it does not. So what are you thinking, Glazer family? I don't know what they're thinking. Did they kind of like the heck out of Dirk Cutter? Were they more comfortable with, I'm just throwing this out, were they more comfortable with Dirk Cutter than they are with Lovie Smith? I have no idea, but it smacks of that. That's what it feels like.
See, that's the danger of African Americans.
Yeah.
Black people, black men. That's the danger of them getting head coaching jobs where you have to struggle and build something because you usually put in the work and then somebody comes in and takes it to another level. Allow me to transition to the game of basketball and ruffle everybody's feathers. I enjoy doing this part. Mark Jackson, our very own Mark Jackson. Now, no, the Golden State Warriors didn't knock your socks off, and no, they didn't get past the first round because they lost to the Clippers in an epic 7-game battle. But Mark Jackson wins 51 games. Mark Jackson is booted out as head coach for the Golden State Warriors. Some questions about what he can do or how he got along with folks or why he was at church instead of being on a golf course, you know, when he wasn't on an off day or whatever the case may be. And Steve Kerr comes in there, does a phenomenal job.
He did.
Deserves a lot of credit. Nothing. And I've spoken to Steve Kerr about this face to face in the past to let him know personally I have nothing against him. I knew he was going to do a phenomenal job. He deserved an opportunity to be a head coach. But damn, when can a brother get an opportunity like that to inherit that kind of situation? Because it certainly didn't happen for Mark Jackson when the Golden State Warriors are walking around here with a 33-2 record with Luke Walton. I mean, think about this. Steve Kerr sits there, does a phenomenal job, fair enough, but then he turns around, he's got his back issues, he can't coach, and Luke Walton takes over, and now Luke Walton is 33-2. You think he ain't getting a head coaching job soon? I mean, look at what he inherited.
Okay.
And I'm saying, hey, more props to him because Luke Walton's a good guy too. And he can coach. He's proven he can coach. My problem is, where are those kind of opportunities for people of color? It would be nice to see that happen because it doesn't. And when I look at Lovie Smith and this man taking the Chicago Bears to the Super Bowl, again, I was a guy that felt like, hey, you know, he needed to go from Chicago. But how are you going to bring him in? Jameis Winston's first year in the league, he's 6-10, and you don't even give him an opportunity to coach, Jameis Winston for a second season. So you're going to boot him out of there. You're going to boot him out of there. Somebody else is going to come in They're going to get all the credit in the world for developing Jameis Winston and Tampa moving in a good direction. They're going to be white. The vast majority of coordinators and coaches are going to be white. And once again, it's yet the latest opportunity that are going to have black folks on the outside looking in, wondering where their opportunity is going to be fair. It's not about the number of opportunities. It's about the equitability of the opportunities. Is it equitable and is it fair compared to what other folks get? And the answer is consistently and historically, hell no. That is a problem, and somebody needs to say something about it. It's a damn shame. It really is.
It is. And just for those who don't quite understand what the Rooney Rule is, it does not say that 50% of NFL head coaches must be African American, or 40%, or 30%, or 2%. It simply says that every team is required to interview at least one black candidate before hiring the next head coach. Well, my friend John Wooten, who oversees the Rooney Rule, would argue that's progress because it usually helps to get that candidate on the map with multiple interviews. All of a sudden, Terrell Austin or whoever, one of these sort of off-radar candidates who gets 2 or 3 interviews, all of a sudden we start talking about, oh, who's that guy? We check him out.
Regardless of my disagreement with John Wooten from time to time, profound respect and love for that man. I love him and I respect the hell out of him. What I would say to him and anybody who thinks like him is this. How can we say that at this point where we've actually gotten to a point where black candidates should be scared of actually taking an interview because it might be counted against them that they actually showed up to be interviewed? I mean, that's where we are at now. So let's think about it. Listen. Let me get a little deeper here. When you talk about, for example, affirmative action, right? I don't know if folks in white America realize this, but the biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action, one could argue, have been white females. Some people in the black community have made that argument. Whether that's factually correct or not, I don't know because I haven't looked up the hard numbers recently. But what I am saying to you is this. No knock against them because as far as I'm concerned, white women were discriminated against. Black women were discriminated against. Women, period, have been discriminated against. And thank God we're addressing that in this day and age. I only say that to bring up this point. Somehow, some way, where the unfairness and inequities aimed in the direction of black men, anytime that becomes a problem and something is done to address it, somehow, some way, it always comes back to black men still being treated unfairly. And this is the latest. This is unbelievable to me that Lovie Smith can be screwed over to this fashion. And I just hope that the NFL stands up and recognizes that you are taking a step in the wrong direction because we have now gotten to a point. And I'm not blaming the NFL for this. I'm not blaming the league office and the people associated with the Rooney Rule because all of those people, their intentions were honorable and it's appreciated. I'm saying when you look at the results of what is transpiring, one can make the argument that we are now officially taking a step back because not only is a Lovie Smith gone, not only have the number of African-American coaches dissipated and diminished, but they have now gotten to a point where you have black men in the NFL literally scared to take an interview because they feel taking the interview will be counted against them. How is that American? How is that American? How is that?
Scary is what it is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, before you jump in here, can I add one thing? This just came in from Adam Schefter. It's another hint that Dirk Cutter is the favorite to become the Bucs' next head coach. The 49ers requested permission to interview him for the head coaching job on Tuesday. They still haven't received an answer from Tampa, so we don't even know if he's available. The Dolphins are also interested, and I wanted to add, Stephen A., only 3 teams had a larger improvement in wins from year 1 to 2. 33 coaches in NFL history have coached 14 or more years. None are African American.
But be clear, because the blog is fair and everybody else. Stephen A. race baiting. That's what he's doing. Anytime
these are facts.
Anytime you're a black person and you spew facts to address the concerns in our community, you are accused of race baiting. But nobody accuses me of that when we're talking about black folks who make mistakes, and I point that out every day. That gets ignored. But when I talk about the mistakes or the things that white folks are doing, it's race baiting. I'm just saying.
I don't even know what race baiting exactly
neither do
means,
I. I'm just telling you the words that they throw out there. And I'm not talking, and understand something, and I'm going to say this, especially to folks out there listening, because I want white folks to understand something. Any person that looks at an individual and thinks there's some kind of racial animus or whatever, you are wrong. I don't look at a white person or white people and say, you're wrong. I'm talking systemically. I'm talking about a system that literally goes about the business of keeping other folks down. That doesn't mean that a white person here or a white person there is a bad person, because white folks suffer in this world just like everybody else. I'm talking about systemically. In the United States of America. Every time we talk about addressing concerns, something happens to remind us of where we are and how far we need to go. This is the latest example.
And all I know is I'm proud of this show for constantly taking on race issues and trying to look deeper into them.
We just ain't running from it.
Being a voice from two perspectives.
We just ain't running from it. I don't enjoy talking about this stuff. It ticks me off that I have to. I'm just not running from it like a lot of other people, for some inexplicable reason, seems to do. They're just scared, or they don't want to sit there and disrupt themselves in their lives. Well, damn it, to whom much is given, much is required. We're the #1 show. We're doing our thing. What's required of that to address issues that are uncomfortable? Get over it, because I'm not going to stop.
We'll discuss this issue further. Obviously, a lot of layers to it. Former coach Herm Edwards will join us. He'll weigh in. Much more First Take after the break. A lot more to get into, especially